Hello everybody, it's Amanda. How are you doing? Today is June the 2nd, 2020, and it's one of those days where Metatron is saying to me, just show up, okay? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm just showing up because I know there's a lot of pain out there in the world at the moment and a lot of overwhelm. I've been promising you a video on that subject of overwhelm, which will be coming at some point this week. But not today. Today I just want to come on and have a chat and see how you're all doing. So, few things to say. I'm going to pull some cards for us from a deck called, which feels very appropriate, Grace Cards by Cheryl Richardson. And I think what's very important is that we try to align ourselves with the energy of grace. And I wonder actually what the official definition of grace is. So I'm just going to pull that up so we can have a look at it and then we can talk around that subject. Grace. Funnily enough, you type in grace and the first thing that comes up on my Google search is Grace Kelly, who absolutely seemed to epitomise what then the definition of grace is. Smoothness and elegance of movement. She moved through the water with effortless grace. That's just one interpretation. It also means to bring honour or credit to someone or something by one's attendance or participation. He is one of the best players ever to have graced the game. It's also to do with courteous goodwill. But I like that first interpretation where it shows itself as a noun and it says she moved through the water with effortless grace. And I am seeing Grace Kelly in my mind's eye as the epitome of that stylish elegance. And I'm also seeing the energy of the swan. The swan that is able to glide through water seemingly effortlessly, but yet beneath the surface of the water, of course, the swan is often paddling furiously to get to where it needs to go, but yet does so. Also, the amazing thing about swans is that they just seem to glide through the water, don't they? It's as though the water parts for them, and they're able just to stay, obviously, on the top of the water, just seemingly with not much effort. So I feel that the energy of the swan and the energy of grace is really important for us to be try to embody right now at a time when the world is very volatile. People feel as though they're having to tread on eggshells to either not say the wrong thing or say the right thing. I will say that last night on Facebook, I noted something that one of the spiritual teachers that I follow had put up. And I thought it was a very inoffensive post. He basically quoted Martin Luther King. He quoted one of the Martin Luther King famous quotes. Can't remember which one it was. But there was obviously a reason why he was doing that yesterday. He did it with the best of intentions. There was no malice behind it. There was certainly no intention to try and cause separation in any community. And I sort of watched the comments coming in and people were just attacking him for putting up this quote from Martin Luther King. And if you've been following my work, you'll know that Martin Luther King is also hovering on the sidelines here, wanting to come through together with JFK. Anyway, I then saw that this spiritual teacher, who I won't name, had to take that particular post down because it had triggered so many people. And I thought, what a shame that you had to do that, because I knew that within this teacher's heart, there was only love and it had been misunderstood. And indeed, the quote from Martin Luther King had been misunderstood as well. So it's a time where it's really being shown the energy of water again. You can either choose to throw almost like a great big stone or brick into the water, which is the collective pool, intentionally, and sow the results of that, you know, or you can choose to be who you need to be, say what you need to say in a graceful way, in the way that if you skim a stone over a lake or a river, it just manages to get to where it needs to go without making too much kerfuffle on the way. I think it's very, very important to be mindful of what we say, to not want to agitate at this moment in time, whatever side of any debate you may be on, for a whole variety of subjects that are out there. We need to respect the fact that people are very sensitive at the moment, but equally it is important that free speech is allowed. And I think what comes in is that we need to be allowing space and the energy of breathing, really being able to breathe, and give ourselves space, but also give other people space to be able to process what they're going through at this moment in time, how they're feeling. And Metatron saying how they're feeling might be changing from moment to moment anyway, rather than just jumping in and creating a great big splash for the sake of making a great big splash. So holding the energy of grace is going to be increasingly important through the month of June. And I think we will be being invited back to sit with grace and to hold the energy of grace as much as we can, whilst around us many other people are doing the complete opposite. And I've used the expression headless chickens before because it's just, I don't know, it's just one of the expressions that I use, because that's what's going on also, that there are a lot of people who are behaving like the headless chickens in terms of panicking. There's a sense of great deal of panic and fear, and we shouldn't be like that. We should be like the graceful swan. Don't forget also that swans, I mean, if you get too near to a swan, my goodness, they can be quite vicious, actually. Bella has before fallen foul of a swan when she's gone playfully up to play with a swan, and you know they can protect their own if they feel threatened, and you know, so don't think that just by holding the energy of the swan and the energy of grace that you're a doormat and a walkover. That's absolutely not what it is. It's about owning the strength of who you are, owning your sovereignty and doing your thing, but not having to pull lots of other people in to see what you're doing, hear what you're doing necessarily. Just be. It's just about just being at this moment in time. Okay. I had a couple of interesting comments come in overnight on YouTube, and two I want to read out actually. Where are we? Okay, I used the phrase the winter of our discontent in the JFK video that I did, and Wendy says here, she's obviously looked it up. She says, according to a particular website, the meaning of the phrase, now is the winter of our discontent, means this. It expresses the idea that we have reached the depth of our unhappiness and that better times are ahead. And I think it's really important to hold on to that although these times we're living through at the moment, wherever we are around the world, are very challenging, that it's as though we're at the bottom of the pit. Okay, we're at the bottom of the pit at the moment. But there is only one way from that place, and that is up. Okay, I'm talking about the collective here. I'm not necessarily saying that your life, you know, you're at the bottom of the pit. I mean, you might very well feel like that. I'm talking collectively, that for the healing to come in, for the breakthroughs to come in, for the gateway to be properly walked through, for us to be arriving into a better place in the future, we have to we have to just acknowledge where we're at the moment. And I'm being shown by Metatron, yeah, we're at the bottom of the pit, and it's almost as though he's saying, and now take a look around it. And he's I'm being shown us, and it's as though we're at the bottom of this pit. And you know, miners, they used to have a torch light that was strapped around their forehead, and the torch would be here, and it was their only means of, you know, being able to see, you know, what was around them. And that's what I'm being shown. That's where we're at. It's as though the torch is coming on, and we're being asked to just stand and to look exactly at what is at the bottom of this pit. And of course, some of it is extremely unpleasant to look at. Some of it is very challenging to look at. And also on the walls of this pit, effectively, it's almost I'm being shown old-fashioned, not old-fashioned, you know, like the Stone Age man carvings. It's like carvings that I'm being shown. And these carvings represent the passage of time and the doings of man, basically. And what Metatron is saying is, if you look closely enough at the walls of the pit, you will see some carvings that belong to you, belong to your ancestry, that aren't necessarily all love and light either. Okay, so it's about really confronting this darkness in our midst, but being very, very sensitive to the others that are also going through this process. And it feels, actually, it's a really interesting one, because even though it's a very collective awakening that's going on at the moment, it actually feels very private. What I'm being shown is very private. It's as though every man's and woman's issues that are coming up to be healed at this time, that have contributed to the collective pot having reached the boiling point that it is at now, needs to really look at and own their own individual stuff. And it does very much follow on from the JFK video that I did in terms of healing the ancestral wound, forgiving the past, forgiving what we have been, also maybe forgiving what we are, and then trying to be a better man, trying to be a better woman. It's all about trying to be a better person at this moment in time. And you're aware of what's happening around you in terms of other people, but it does feel as though this is an experience where really the answers only are going to lie within yourself, in terms of trying to bring yourself back to a state of peace and a state of grace. And the more that you feed into the collective hubbub that's out there, and the panic and the fear, you're moving further and further away, actually, from what is within here, that needs to be listened to, acknowledged, held, supported, and loved, basically, back to a state of balance. Okay. And then what happens is that the sound of the crowds around you and the collective noise and disarray starts to recede, because your voice that's been adding to it is then taken away. And if enough of us do that, the collective hubbub starts to die down as well. So it does always come back to us. It always comes back to us. Another message that came in was from Mayan, and she says, "Hi Amanda, I was wondering, you said in the beginning of 2020 that this year will have 4 distinct sections, completely different seasons. With all that's happening, it starts to seem that way indeed. Do you feel any connection with the elements for each period? I noticed it so far and find it interesting. The first months were about the virus, air. I keep thinking also about how the least sold spray of yours in 2019 was the air elemental, perhaps foreshadowing what was to come. Now the protests and the riots, which are linked into fire energy. And I was wondering whether the next 2 sections of 2020 possibly might be connected to earth and water. Money, financial system, perhaps as a representation of water. I would love to hear your thoughts. Blessings." It's a really interesting question, that. And yes, I do remember saying that 2020 was going to be played out in 4 different parts, 4 very distinct parts of 2020. And I feel as though we are we're still in the second phase. I agree with what she said there, that the first part of 2020 was air, linked into COVID, linked into not being able to, infections of the lungs. We, of course, now are into this energy, which is very volatile, a lot of Mars energy around. We've got the rioting, we've got violence coming through, not just in the USA, but in other countries as well. I'm very much drawn to the situation in Hong Kong, and thoughts and prayers very much go out to those people there as well. But I mean, many countries around the world, South Africa, too many to mention, to be honest. Brazil also, I'm picking up. So this very sort of fiery energy. But then, of course, with George Floyd and what happened recently, his last words were, "I can't breathe." So that also, it's almost as though that, it's like a bridge energy I'm hearing from the sector of 2020, which was about air, "I can't breathe," to suddenly being in this fiery energy, where there's going to be a lot of smoke, which fire basically produces. What does smoke do? Smoke also actually is something that inhibits our breath. If you've been in a building, God, I hope you haven't, and I hope you never will, and I haven't actually either. But the truth is that if you're in a building that's on fire, it's usually the smoke that will kill you before the flames. So the energy of smoke at this time, but I'm also hearing smoke and mirrors. Okay, so that phrase, smoke and mirrors, not being able to truly see what is the truth. And again, everybody having a different representation of what is truth. My truth might not be your truth. Your truth might not be the person standing next to you's truth. What is truth? Everybody trying to throw their stones into the collective pool with their version of truth. And it's almost as though the people that are holding on to the biggest need to be right are throwing the biggest stones in. And Metatron's saying they don't just throw one stone, they then throw another and another and another until you're overwhelmed and you don't actually know anymore what is the truth. The person that is at peace is the person that can own their truth, but not have to spout it from the rooftops every 5 minutes. I think that's something to really watch for within our communities and also our online communities. The people that can't let something go, that are like a dog with a bone, as I say, that just want to keep battering you down into, no, this is the way of the world. This is the way it is. This person's right. This person's wrong. This person's good. This person's bad. I would be really cautious of whatever they're saying, because the person that really is at peace and is holding an energy of grace is the person who's able to look you in the eye and basically say, I hear you, I listen to what you believe. It may not be what I believe, but I wish you well with it. And to genuinely mean that, we have to get to a place in our world where we are able to respect each other's differences and respect each other's differences of opinions without pulling other people down into, you're an idiot if you don't know this, don't you know that, all the stuff I've been talking about recently on this channel. So I think there's a lot to be said for June, which is going to be this very volatile month, being like the swan, that around it is able to just, sorry, something's coming in I need to say in a minute, which is just making me emotional. We need to be like the swan who's able just to glide through these troubled waters. But having said that, the reason I'm feeling choked up is that I read in my local newspaper yesterday that I live near the river as well as the sea, and the latest craze here in terms of on the river is people love paddle boarding. Well, great, great if you want to do that. It looks good fun. But of course, like anything, some people take it to an extreme and they don't respect the natural habitat that is around the river. So over the weekend, a lot of people were paddle boarding, and effectively what happened is that a group of people doing this disturbed the natural habitat of some swans that were nesting and the cygnets that were there, their little babies. and they caused some destruction basically, and I think they caused the death of one of the swans, which is just really tragic. And I almost didn't want to say that because I'm bringing in an energy of sadness to a reading where I'm trying to bring in hope and inspiration, but equally that these are the times that we live in, that sometimes you'll, okay, thank you to the swan who's helping me to say this story, because it's almost like the energy of that dead swan is I've got it here, and it's saying, she's saying it's not that we're going to die, but she's saying it's almost like it's better to die a noble death, protecting what was right in a graceful way, rather than go down all guns blazing in flames. The swan's energy is really interesting because the swan, in this case, she was provoked to look after her young. And so, yeah, I guess died as a result of that. I'm sure the people paddleboarding didn't mean to disrupt the habitat in the way that they meant to. They were just ignorant, okay? They were ignorant. They were putting their own pleasure and their own needs above the needs of other creatures that live in that habitat. So I just had this I wanted to straighten my back, this very sort of noble energy in terms of living and dying, you know, maybe, not that we're about to, but it's this thing about living and dying, the whole cycle of life, living it in a noble way, in a graceful way. There must be a card of grace in this deck. Let's just see if I can find it. I'm wondering what the words would be on the back. And then I'll pull a couple of others. There must be a grace card. The deck's called Grace. Maybe there isn't. How funny. There isn't a card called Grace. But yeah, they're called grace cards. Okay, maybe these are all different expressions of grace. Awaken, comfort, gratitude, imagination, trust, strength, quietness, love, mirroring, peace, prayer, mindfulness, rest, soul, surrender, choice, beauty, perception, receiving, silence, shine, connect, patience, valor, devotion, affection, faith, listen, gift, honor, presence, self. These are all qualities that are just going to get us through this month. Let's just pull one card and see which one comes out. But yeah, okay, going back to that question about the 4 elements of the year whilst I'm shuffling. So if we're in the energy of fire now, we've got water and earth left. Although, of course, I also include the 5th element in it, which is the cosmos, which I just think is overlighting the whole year. One of you, again, asked a question the other day, and he said, well, why aren't the galactics coming in to help us? Surely this would be the year. If there's any year that we need them, this is the year. You know, come on, show yourself. We need you now. And I replied, and I just said something like, hold on a minute. We have got ourselves into this mess as a species. We need to be the people that get ourselves out of this mess. If you create the mess, you clear up the mess. Doesn't mean that they can't come in to support us. All of the galactics, the angelics, the ascended masters, they're all here supporting us, but they will not do it for us. We as a species have to learn the lesson, and we have to be able to clear up the crap basically that we've made. And this is generational. This isn't just one lifetime. And I think this is part of the overwhelm that a lot of us are feeling at the moment, because it's just like, where do you start? Well, you just start with today. You start with one thing you can do which can maybe make a difference, that can bring in an energy of peace and gentleness. And I just want to stay with peace and gentleness. And truly, that can help balance out the scales, which at the moment are tipping to an energy which is more warlike. Okay, we don't want a warlike energy. We want an energy coming forward where we understand that peace and love are actually the two most powerful energies that we've got on this planet. You know, we think that everything is connected. Absolutely everything is connected. And I must just say that, you know, I have somebody in my family, I won't say who's a great artist. And yesterday she had held some sort of art class or something, or maybe it was just a family thing she'd done with another member. They don't live near me. So she just posted this picture up on Facebook again of what they'd created yesterday. And it was the peace symbol, but it was the peace symbol that had been made with twigs and flowers and branches. So it's little bits of twig and branch with flowers stuck around it. And it was just so beautiful. And then they hung it up on their wall. And I said, oh, you know, well, of course I'm going to love that. I love it. And it's like, how can I do one of those? But, you know, I had no awareness that they were doing that yesterday. But of course that they would be doing that, because that's what all of us are striving for at the moment. Whether we're consciously doing it, sitting in spiritual communities, linking into prayer, meditation, or our own inner journey towards peace, or, you know, we're working in other ways. We're all so connected. But yeah, these last two segments of 2020, which way round does it go? I think we end with Earth, personally. I mean, I might be wrong, but I'm feeling that Earth is the final part of 2020. And I feel as though the next phase will be water, which will be linked into a lot of emotions arising. And you might be thinking, oh my God, surely no more emotions can arise. We're already very, you know, emotional, but there's a whole spectrum of emotions, okay? And I feel as though there may be some, I mean, water is tears, of course, as well, but tears can be very cleansing, and tears can also be linked into releasing stress. So, and it may also be that Mother Earth needs to have a cry as well, okay, in terms of a water-based event or events. Or it could just be it's something that links into the waters of our world that come up to be looked at, that come up needing attention for some reason. But we will know about that when it comes. It's not quite here yet. But the Earth section of 2020 feels as though it's the very last part, and it will be about consolidating what 2020 has all been about, but it will also be about then setting the foundations for 2021, where we're going to be going up another level as well. So yeah, I thought that was really quite interesting. But, you know, ultimately, time is not linear. I keep saying this. So in many ways, we can dip into any section of 2020, even if we haven't actually arrived at it yet. What we really need to be doing is helping to balance out all of the all of the elements within our own body: water, fire, earth, air, cosmos. And how you do that, there are a manifold number of ways. It can even be just in terms of what you've got around you in your room when you consciously connect to them. So, you know, sitting in front of me, I've got crystals. I've always got my crystals, you know, that represent the earth. I have got plants around me. I've got water that I drink. I've got water that I put out in the sunshine to soak up the solar rays, and then I drink it. Air, got the windows open. It's very hot today. There's a lot of breeze coming in. The cosmos is around me and within me when I'm tuning into spirit, and I'm remembering that I am spirit and that I'm also part of, you know, God, as you are. Fire, fire in your belly, you know, inspiration, creativity, dipping into that Kundalini energy. It's all it's all about consciously remembering that you have all of these elements within you. That also I am earth because I have a physical body, you know, that is a manifestation of spirit holding an earthly shape, okay, which just happens to look this way in this lifetime. But of course, I, like you, more than my body, okay. My spirit just happens to be housed in this particular earthy shell at the moment that looks like this. But, you know, I'm also honouring that that is an aspect of the earth. And then ashes to ashes, dust to dust, I go back to the earth. So the more that we can connect into the elements in our everyday life, consciously connect into them, the more we help heal the elemental imbalance that we're seeing playing out in our world right now. So, you know, the flames, the fire, you know, tend to your own fires. You know, what's going on with the fire within yourself? Has it gone out? Or is it raging? You know, are you full of rage? Are you full of rage to the point that it's making you blind, that you can't listen to anybody else without having to jump straight in, that you can't give somebody else space, that you're just full of the red mist? That needs to be channeled in a constructive way if that is the case. So, and it just seems to me that the swan has this ability to be able to navigate her environment extremely well. I'm looking around me because I'm just going to have a look at the book by Ted Andrews, which is Animal Speak. Let me go and get the book. As I went to get the book, there's a fly that's just flown in the window. And my initial reaction was like to shoo it away. I was like, no, make peace with the fly. So it can look at that. I've just opened the book on the page, which is Swan. I've just opened the book on the page that is the swan. Wow, okay. So those of you that have got the book, Ted Andrews' Animal Speak, it's page 195. The swan is about awakening the true beauty and the power of the self. The swan is one of the most powerful and ancient of totems. This is reflected even in its name. It is one of the oldest names in the English language, and it has come down unchanged since Anglo-Saxon times. Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting. Okay. The neck of the swan is long and graceful. It is one of the swan's most distinguishing features. Get this. The neck is a bridge. How many times do I talk about bridges with Metatron? The neck is a bridge area between the head, the higher realms, and the body, the lower worlds. In the swan totem, as you begin to realise your own true beauty, you unfold the ability to bridge to new realms and new powers. This ability is to awaken to the inner beauty and bridge it to the outer world. It is part of what swan medicine can teach. It can show how to see the inner beauty within yourself or in others, regardless of outer appearances. When we are capable of this, we become a magnet to others. This is reflected in the familiar story by Hans Christian Andersen, The Ugly Duckling. So it's encouraging us to see the beauty in ourselves, our own value, but equally to see the beauty in each other as well. And it says here, yes, swans are powerful birds. They can break a man's arms with the beat of their wings, and they have strong bites as well. They can live as long as 80 years. I think that's really why it got to me yesterday that this swan has died because of human ignorance just around the corner from where I live. You know, a beautiful bird struck down by people's ignorance. But yeah, obviously I'm talking about her today, so hopefully it's not in vain. If we can be more like the swan and what she's trying to teach us, then her death won't be in vain. Oh, this is interesting as well. It references an American energy, which is interesting. The mute swan, best known in America, is named for the belief that it loses its voice as it reaches maturity. Wow. Oh God, I'm going to have to just say that again because that is so profound. It is not truly voiceless, but it does epitomise the idea of strength through silence. Yes, 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 1000%. This is what I've been trying to get to, I think, over the last few weeks. This chatter, this endless chatter, this endless fighting that we're seeing, and in spiritual circles, in terms of my way is right. You're an idiot if you don't see it my way. What the swan is teaching us here, the mute swan, best known in America, is named for the belief that it loses its voice as it reaches maturity. I'm wanting to say spiritual maturity. It's not truly voiceless, but it does epitomise the idea of strength through silence. There's something very powerful at the moment about silence. I am craving it. I am craving silence. I'm finding it's pretty much the only medicine that I want at the moment is silence. In a world that is becoming noisier and noisier and noisier, and everybody's talking and no one's listening. So there's actually real strength in just holding our own at the moment, like the swan, holding our own, knowing our truth, not having to go blabbermouthing it about all over the internet, you know, when we see somebody who doesn't agree with us, or in society, or the neighbour down the road. That's just an ego thing. This is linked into, I know what is right. I also know that I'm a master manifester. I know that I can create from my heart. And if I hold this energy of peace and goodwill and love and hope for the future, I can create that. If I dip into the wider angst that's out there and just add more and more fuel to the fire, I create more and more fire. I can't not. Because my opinion that I'm adding to the fire is not going to be somebody else's opinion. So people are going to start, spit for spat again. That's not even an expression. I just made that up. It's like I'm hearing the fire. You know that when the fire like crackles and spits at you. We don't need that. So we just have to be. We just have to be. I'm being shown now an energy of Christ. And this isn't a story from the New Testament or anything like that. He's just showing me his energy. And he's sitting on what looks effectively like a battlefield, but the battlefield is actually a street. Okay, so it could be a street in a country where you live, but it's a street where there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of fire energy. Okay, not judging that is wrong. It's just that when it spirals out of control, it can cause damage. It can cause damage that isn't intended. The wind can whip up the flames and take the flames somewhere where it was not intended to go. So it's a very dangerous, volatile situation. And what I'm being shown is Christ is just literally sitting in the middle of all of it. And he's dressed in white and he's saying absolutely nothing. And what's interesting is as he just sits there in this white energy, which is linked into purity, it's linked into grace, it's linked into gentleness, it's linked into love. The people who are on the outer extremities of the violence and the aggression are just noticing and they're stopping and they're actually then choosing to just sit because they're being affected by the presence, his presence. And it is literally stopping them in their tracks. And it's like they're putting down their arms because they don't need to do it anymore. And it literally is that this one man, this one energy, this Christ light basically coming in is able just to bring in the energy of peace and stillness, which is more powerful than, there's a bee coming in. Look at this. I must just show you the bee because otherwise you might not believe me. Can you see my bee? There he is. We'll look up the bee in a moment. There he is. He's come in just as I'm talking about Christ. The energy of this one Christ energy is able just to bring in the peace that passes understanding, okay? And is so much more powerful. The silence of this being in the center, saying nothing, just holding the energy of love, is more powerful than 10,000 men or women out there with arms and, you know, fighting. Look at that bee. Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay, right. He's got my attention. He's got our attention. I thought he was actually going to land on me. What he perfectly illustrated was, of course, my natural instinct when a bee or a wasp comes is like, oh my God, I'm going to get stung. And you want to swat it away and you want to go back into the action energy. And what that bee was just helping me to demonstrate was just be still. And then when you're still, you know, you bring that stillness in. Right, let's just have a look at the bee. I will let him out of my window in a minute. He's trying to get out the window now. Now he's made his point. Bee. 94,337. Let's just see what he's trying to say. Fertility and the honey of life. In Hinduism, depending upon how depicted, the bee could relate to Vishnu, Krishna, or even Kama, the god of love. In Egypt, it denoted royalty. In the Celts associated it with hidden wisdom. Pollination, obviously. Bees are long-term symbols for accomplishing the impossible. For many years, scientists were unable to determine how bees were able to fly. Aerodynamically, the body was too large for the wings. It has only been in more recent times that science has determined that bees move their wings at such a high rate of speed that it makes flight possible. Oh, okay. Still, it remains to many as a symbol of accomplishing quests that appear to be impossible. It's like what I was saying about the swan. The swan is just glides through the water. And it's paddling away, but you can't see it. And that little bee, you know, with the big body and the tiny little wings, he's able to navigate. He's navigating the energy of air, you know, but he's flapping. But actually, if you saw that when he was near me, he was just very, what's the word? He was hovering. He's gone silent now. Maybe he's flown out. The bee is also a reminder to extract the honey of life and to make our lives fertile while the sun shines. The bee reminds us that no matter how great the dream, there is the promise of fulfillment if we pursue it. The elixir of life is as sweet as honey, and the bee is a symbol that promises us that the opportunity to drink of it is ours if we pursue our dreams. Honey as the sweetness of life. We've lost the joy. My colour teacher always used to teach that about yellow, actually, yellow and gold as colour energies, that they represent the joy and the honey of life. And it's so funny. I mean, everything is so connected. This morning I was sat having my breakfast and I have fruit and natural yoghurt, and I've been buying myself these natural yoghurts that have honey in them, you know, and they're lovely. They're really lovely, but we didn't have any left today. So I had to just have normal natural yoghurt. And I was saying to John, I said, oh, it doesn't taste nearly as nice without the honey. How perfect. Okay, let's pull final card and then I'm going to get this uploaded. White feather's just gone past my window. Oh my God, look at the card. Oh God, you just can't make this stuff up. Look at that, anticipation. But we've just had the bee. What does the bee do? The bee goes to flowers and gets the nectar, okay? And also the bee works for the whole hive, okay? They work together as a team. But look at that. That's almost like us. We're being asked to go and savor the nectar of life. The more that you invest in and watch and absorb and get just totally overwhelmed with all of the difficult stuff that's happening in our world at the moment, you are basically removing yourself from the joy of life, okay? There is still joy in life. There is still sweetness in life. There is so much to be celebrated. There is so much to love about our world. Wherever you are in the world, that is the truth. And if you're looking around and thinking, not in my backyard, Amanda, well, look within. Bring yourself some of that sweetness. Bring yourself some of that nectar that you need back to yourself to nourish yourself, to remind you that actually life is sweet. And this beautiful blooming rose as well, which is just there for all of us. He does want to be let out of the window. I'm going to go and do that now. Look at the message on the back of the card. I think I'm just going to leave you with that. Expect the best. The world is actually working in your favour. Believe it or not, the world is actually working in your favour. Going to leave it there for today. Much love. Take care of yourself. Fill yourself up with some of the nectar of life. What makes you feel good, what brings you pleasure, whether it's something from nature, whether it's a bit of honey on your yogurt, it doesn't matter. It's about the sweetness of life, remembering that life is sweet. Okay, we have to hold on to that because it's actually the truth. Much love. Be like the swan, be like the bee. Go flap those wings, but do it gracefully. Okay, there's something about elegance. Oh God, I must just say one more thing, guys, before I sign off, because it's all linked, I'm realising now. One of you left a comment a few weeks ago, and you said it was just a jokey comment and it's fine. You said something along the lines of, do you ever dress down, Amanda? You always seem to be, do you ever dress down? You've always got nice jewellery, or, you do your hair, you put your makeup on. Do you ever just slouch around in joggers? And I laughed and I said, no, I actually always do dress up. It's something I've got from my mum. So every day I make an effort with my appearance. I will, even if there's nobody else here to see it, which usually is the case, I put my makeup on for myself. I put a nice dress on for myself. I put my jewellery on for myself. It makes me feel good. But this morning, it's really interesting. I was looking at my wardrobe and I was thinking, oh God, why haven't I just got any normal slouchy clothes? I don't want to put on this dress. Where's something to slouch in? And I'm realising now, I'm getting the energy of Grace Kelly coming back. It's like Grace Kelly saying, no, actually there's something about elegance. There's something important about trying to hold an energy of elegance. Okay, whether you're a man or whether you're a woman, because it's to do with the swan. The swan is proud of who she is, okay? And there's nothing wrong with that in terms of trying to help yourself to get into the state that you're needing to get into. And before people start shouting me down, no, I'm not saying that everyone has to dress up in high heels and makeup. You can do whatever you want to do. You can be elegant and just wear a white blouse or, a shift dress with your hair tied back with nothing on your face. I'm talking about what works for me, okay? So actually this energy of elegance, and my mother is very elegant, I think it's all linked into today's message. Be like the swan. Yeah. So no, I'm not going to buy myself some slouchy joggers. I'm going to carry on as I am. Much love, guys. Take care of yourself. I'll be back soon. Bye-bye for now.